Good evening, everyone out there in YouTube land. My name is Jared. This is my channel, Mazda B3K. This is going to be a relatively quick one, but I'm pretty sure the blower is torched in my Miata, and I want to see if I can prove that out, and then I'm going to show you how to install a new one. Without further ado, let's get started. So, question. Why do you think your blower is not in a good place? Answer. I had the blower, had the car in accessory mode, had the blower set to max. Nothing was coming out. I assumed the blower was bad, didn't think anything more of it, until the inside of the car began to fill with white smoke, and it smelled electrical. So I turned that off. And then I reached under glove box where the blower is, right here, and it was hot, very hot to the touch. So I said, I think I've got a bad blower or a bad blower resistor, but I need to find out. So the first thing we need to do is we need to remove the glove box for accessibility. So to remove the glove box, we have a pair of, these are probably JIS standard, but you can use a Phillips to get this out. We have two of them. One over there, one on the other side. And once that is done, we need to then pop the glove box out of its guide. Okay, well, I just learned you don't need to worry about popping it out of its guide. All you need to do is get the glove box. See if I can't. I'm working in a portable tent, so everything is quite dark, but if you get the hinge right there, if you get it off its post right there, it'll just come right out. So once you've done that, there is your blower. And the way that it is set up is a little bit odd to me because I'm a Ford guy. But it sits right here. And all these extra connections up here are for the blower resistor. It's not a monolithic unit. It's actually kind of almost a string setup. Kind of goofy. But what we want to check in first is this is our power to our blower. And what we're going to want to do is we're going to disconnect it, and then we're going to get our multimeter, and we're going to check for 12 volts coming off the harness, which I suspect we're going to have 12 volts coming off the harness. And if that is so, then we're probably all right. But I think with the way this is set up, that we actually might get different voltages down here depending on our blower setting. Because I think the way they do it in this one, it's got to pass through the resistors first before it gets to the blower. And so that's going to alter the final voltage that we're going to see here. But if we set it to high or maximum flow, we should see 12 volts, and we might see less depending on the other settings that we do. All right, for this connector, from the look of things, we need to take that little plastic tongue right there, push it down, and then we can separate the connector. I'm going to use a small flathead to do that. Can't put it on camera because I don't have my tripod over here, but we're going to separate that so that we have some contact points for our multimeter to do testing with. Okay, so I've reconnected the battery. Key is currently not an accessory or anything. So I've got our contacts in, I've got our probes in. They fit pretty nicely. We have no volts, which is what we should see. And then if we put the key into, power everything. So we're seeing some negative voltage. And then if I set the blower to high, We're getting 12 volts. And it stays a consistent 12 volts. Okay. Don't mind the negative, it just means I have the probes backward on the thing. And then we're back to 0. So the unit, the blower is definitely getting 12 volts. It's getting 12 volts all the time. So then the question becomes, how is this blower resistor wired? Becomes the new question here. Like, do we have a busted ground wire? No, there's the ground. Okay, well, what I'm gonna do, because I feel pretty confident in this case that it's the blower, I'm gonna go ahead and work on taking the blower out and putting the new one in, and then seeing what happens. Okay, we have, I apologize for that jittery there. We've got 3 what I believe to be 8mm bolts that kind of work around the perimeter. There's one there, and there's one where my finger is, right there. And then if you continue to work around the periphery, there's one right here. And also, I think this is part of the blower resistor here. We may need to take this off, we may not. But we have 3 we need to remove, and then the blower unit should just fall right out. All right, let's take a look at our old blower. So we can see that most likely the air box needs to be cleaned out. It's full of junk. The other thing we can see is it's pretty rusty. But the most telling thing, lets me know I got this right, let's take a look. Here's our replacement, and I can spin it one hand, not much going on, right? I can't spin this. So let's brace it against this big old starter. See that? Now it'll spin. But I'm having to push and force it to turn, so I'm pretty sure the bearing in this is done. And that's what happened here, is that internally this thing locked up and power was going to the windings and to the brushes and everything. The motor was trying to make this spin. It could not make it spin, so things were just starting to overheat, and that's why we had white smoke. So with that in mind, we're going to go ahead. I'm going to make an assumption, which is scary business, but I'm going to make an assumption that our blower resistor is okay, and I'm just going to install this new blower and then we'll test. Okay, one other thing. So there is this little optional plastic piece that comes with the blower, the correct one, at least if you get it from AutoZone, and we do need to have that installed. As you can see, this one has it, and let's see, is this the original? It says Unimotor. I'm not sure. It says made in Canada. I'm going to lean towards no, that this has been replaced before.
I'm going to put this back in the toolbox.
Yes, it has, because this says Unimotor. So yeah, they replaced this before. This will be the 3rd or maybe more blower. But you're going to want to take this piece and you're going to want to line it up over here. I'll turn this so you can see it better. You're going to put it over that hole right there. Just get this all lined up, and then when we put the blower back on, one of our bolts, one of our screws is going to go through here. Hold that in place. Good afternoon, everyone. Today is a new day. So last I left you, we had determined we had a bad blower, and I've gone ahead and installed a new one. I had 2 7mm and an 8mm. I'm going to assume, because this has already been replaced at least once, some of that is not the original hardware. The black plastic piece that goes right there, it slides on the blower side, and then it just bolts in right there. So we are good to go on this side. So now let's turn the key actually check the blower. All right, so I've got the key in the on position, and let's see, AC or blower 1, blower 2, blower 3, and blower 4. I would say that was our problem. So diagnosis confirmed. We had a bad blower, and this is a good. So the last thing that we need to worry about is putting our hinges back on for the glove box. And you can see this hole here. Difficult to see, but there is a hole over there, and we've got one over here. And we need to line those up with these guideposts here. We get those guideposts in, we should be able to put our Phillips or our JIS screws in, and then put our stops back in position, and the glove box will be good to go. Okay, so pro tip, when you're putting this back together, put your stops back in place first, those guys, and that makes it much easier to line up the hinges there and tighten them in. As you can see now, glove box is back in. Works just fine. I might use a zip tie or something to help, you know, kind of tuck that wire out of the way, keep it out of the footwell, but otherwise we're done here. And that was fairly painless, and I hope that video will help somebody else out. All right, that's going to do it for this one. If you found this video useful, please consider like, sharing, and subscribing. Otherwise, catch you guys on the next one.